Okay, so what we do here is this is year 2, and your co-track director there, Mr. Gary Mitchell, hi, and I put together for months. We try to narrow down the scope of what we want to do every year, and all we have is the entire history of sci-fi movies and TV. All that stuff. It turns out there's a lot, and so what we did was we have put together 20 panels that we didn't have time to do anytime this weekend.
We also spent about a month working on that list.
Yes.
There are things that didn't make
and
the die.
Order of the list. All right, so let's go down the line and introduce. These are basically the classic track irregulars, you guys. So introduce yourselves, plug your stuff, and then we'll get started.
Let's start with the back row.
My name is Michael French. I run RetroBlasting with this fine young lady right here. We're a YouTube channel. We've been online for 3 years, and we deconstruct 80s cartoons and toys. So
And do it wonderfully.
Thank you.
Awesome.
And I'm Melinda, and I'm his partner.
I'm Kevin. I co-host a podcast called The Flopcast. It comes out every week. Flopcast.net. The Flopcast is very silly and very nerdy, and it's very much like what we discuss here in this track room all weekend.
Hi, my name is Sue. I am a blogger and podcaster over at anomalypodcast.com, which is general geek topics, all talked about by women. It's an all-ladies show. And I am also one of the hosts of the Parsec Finalist, Women at Warp, which is a feminist Star Trek podcast. And I have cards for that.
My name is Michael Faulkner. I'm with the Chronic Riff Network, where I help find the culture in pop culture. I run a podcast called The Weekly Audioplex, which covers movie news. I'm also blogging my adventures with Doctor Who. I started at the very beginning, watching every episode for the very first time, and writing about them little things called timestamps. That's at creativecriticality.wordpress.com.
I am James Palmer. I am not a podcaster, but I've been on a few. I'm a writer and editor and publisher of science fiction and pulp adventure. This is some of my stuff. I'm probably best known for this one. This is Monster Earth. This is the Cold War fought with giant monsters instead of nuclear weapons. I also have some ebooks up here, just pulpy, sci-fi, fantasy, horror goodness.
What about the one with the mummy and the robot? Is that your staff?
I am out of those.
Oh, there's a book about a mummy fighting a robot.
Yeah, I have a collection of my stories called Into the Weird, and one of them is a robot fighting a mummy on a train, and it's Joe's favorite story. Yeah, you gotta have the train.
Monster Earth is really
It's
good.
niche-y.
Best book ever.
Exactly.
Please tell me the title is Throw Mummy from the Train.
No! Darn it! Why didn't I think of that? It's actually Mummy Train. Probably least imaginative.
James, you have to go.
That's the sequel.
You can reissue it with a new title, and it's a special edition.
That's true.
No.
I can do that.
Sequel.
Throw Mummy from the train.
A bigger, better robot and a bigger, better wrapped mummy.
No, I like the idea
And
of
a bigger
special
train.
edition with more dewbacks.
Train.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
So, Ms. Tegan.
I don't even know where to start from Mummy. My name is Tegan. I have a website, justtegan.com, and I also am the newly minted co-host of the Rev News. I'm really excited about that, and I appear frequently on the Revcast, and I live on the internet.
I'm Michael Bailey, and I've never met Terry Farrell, but I'm sure she's a lovely woman. And I have barely a knowledge of who John Barrowman is, but I host a bunch of different podcasts: Views from the Long Box, From Crisis to Crisis, Bailey's Batman Podcast, Tales of the JSA, because I really like comics and I apparently have free time.
I'm Gary Mitchell, yes, really, and I am, along with Joe, the co-director of this track. I am the host of the Rev News and co-host of the Revcast for RevolutionSF.com, where I write reviews and stuff, apparently. It's been a little bit, but I do podcast frequently.
Yes, indeed.
All right, roll it. Let's see what we
Big
got.
money, no whammy.
Yeah.
What do we got?
Number 3, Judge Dredd.
The Stallone version.
The Stallone version.
You knew you were in trouble with this movie when there's this giant action scene at the beginning and Sylvester Stallone steps out of his vehicle and the first line is, "I am the law. You are breaking the law." And I knew, okay, so it's Inspector Clouseau as Judge Dredd. Perfect.
I knew we were in trouble when Rob Schneider was the better actor.
Let me crush him, Paul. Excuse me? We're not together.
I said it.
Yeah, Deuce Bigelow and Rambo make a movie together. No, I think the funny thing about that film is that visually, when you're looking at the way they designed the characters, like the costuming and everything, if you saw it in stills, you'd swear, hey, this is going to be okay.
Yeah.
And then you watch the film and you're like, oh, he took his helmet off like 10 minutes in and he never puts it back on.
What was that?
Sucks. Yeah.
So
Or it's like, oh God, this picture has movement.
He doesn't need an extra speech impediment with the mask in front of his face, because then none of us would have known what the hell he was saying.
And it also suffered from the fact they were trying to cram like 8 different classic Dredd storylines into one movie.
Yeah.
And just...
In some ways, this movie, the Stallone version, was more accurate to the comics than the later Dredd. In that,
I will fight you on that.
Well,
on tone, okay.
Go ahead.
Well, Judge Dredd, the comics, it's satire, and it's crazy, goofy, over the top, quite a bit of it.
Mr. I am the law.
Whereas I thought the Dredd, the more recent one, was just so dark and serious, and
It took it
you didn't see
seriously.
a lot of the crazy, silly aspects of Mega City 1 from the comics. And the Stallone version, you did get some of that.
Yeah, they kind of put the nail in the coffin of of that side of the comics, because there's no way they could even have a hint of satire in the new one. Otherwise, it would have been "I'm the law" all over again.
Yeah.
And the one upside is it had Diane Lane in it. And
Yeah.
any movie is elevated with Diane Lane.
Charity balance.
Mm-hmm.
And then continuing down one slide of Christopher Plummer.
Oh.
Yes.
Oh, the big roll.
Whoa, right in the
Knock
corner.
that door.
8. Stepford Wives.
The original.
The original.
Is that 40 years?
I think so.
Okay, 40-year anniversary of Stepford Wives.
I'd like to say it's definitely one of those movies that had a great impact, like culturally, and especially in the way we looked at women and the home life. So it was a very important movie, very creepy, but incredibly important in the kind of feminist realm of things.
I think the film was actually prophetic, and I'm not even about to make a joke when I say this. It's weird that it predicted reality shows like Real Housewives of X. Like, it just predicted this kind of homogeny of our society coming to fruition. I thought that was fascinating about the movie, looking back on it 40 years later.
And it's a great example of the 70s downer sci-fi, because so many 70s movies, like, we were all bummed out anyway, so our movies had to bum us out as well and have a down ending. And how many movies then become the title becomes a trope,
Right.
and it's the Stepford X. How many Stepford knockoffs have we had of?
Yeah, I think it was a really big product of its time. Like so many things in the 70s, they were doing so many, really great new concepts in the 70s. But that particular film is like society itself is the thing to be feared. So much like so many things, even from like the late 60s through the 70s, that was a trope in so many films. And now, that's not really what we're afraid of. So it doesn't seem to carry over as much, especially because Stepford whatever is a thing now. So the horror of it is a little lost on modern audiences, I think.
All right, next roll.
Big bucks, no whammies.
20!
Woo!
Natural 20!
Give me the business card.
Got the shirt here. The shirt.
Hey!
Awesome.
You win a business card. Have
You were a
business
high
card.
roller,
Get a button.
sir.
Get a button.
20 is Clue.
Woo! So what's the movie?
Clue!
Yes!
Oh my god!
Best movie on the die.
Define best.
That's why it's the 20.
Oh god, Clue. Where do you even start with Clue?
Yeah.
It's
Tim Curry.
Tim Curry,
Tim Curry.
Madeline Kahn.
Kahn.
I mean,
Flames.
Christopher
Flames.
Lloyd.
Flames on the side of my face.
That was totally ad-libbed,
Yeah, I love.
by the way.
If you watch Martin Mull next to her, there's a reason they cut, because that's where he starts to crack.
Flames.
On the side of my face.
It's got a phenomenal cast and it has multiple endings. Like
Was it one of the first movies to do that though, with like multiple endings and multiple scenes or
Not
places?
really,
or?
but it was one of the most well known.
Yeah, most well known, and I think they did a different ending in different theaters.
Yeah,
So
it was different different sections of the country.
And there was
different
originally,
zones.
I believe, supposed to be an ending for everybody.
Yeah.
Oh.
And they just didn't have the budget to complete it. So
they only did like
three.
yeah.
Yeah. And there are just so many great running gags of that movie.
Oh my gosh.
Communism.
It's a red
was
herring.
a red herring.
and it's so quotable. Like my friends and I love going. And I'm going to go home and sleep with my wife.
And I don't think it gets enough credit because we a couple of years ago we had Battleship. And everyone was like, oh, they're turning a board game into a movie. But the people who made this film, one, assembled a spectacular cast. Tim Curry, yes, epic in just about anything he does, but Michael McKean has this very underplayed role, but he ends up being my favorite character in the whole thing. And
he does not get enough credit.
No, and it's just the singing telegram and everything, and it's just
who's from the Go-Go's, right?
So you have
she's
this
a singer, right?
Okay.
So,
obviously she's a singing telegram, but anyway. Yeah.
But it's a cult hit. Because I remember being in and out of theaters in about 5 minutes.
Yeah.
But and it had an impact on me because my family rented it, and then we returned it and came back with the Rocky Horror Picture Show. So it was like this really weird weekend.
No kidding.
Party at the Bailey House.
And now we know how you gathered the blackmail.
By the first character they think of when somebody mentions Tim Curry.
I watched this for the first time at a birthday party I think it was the 3rd grade.
You have awesome friends.
Thank you. And the kid got Omega Supreme for his birthday. He was gonna.
Oh, we hate him now.
But I remember when I saw it, and that was really, aside from seeing it a few years ago as an adult, that was the one time I'd seen it. It was the first time that I'd ever seen a movie, the first time where a character died, and I was disappointed that they died simply because I wanted to look at her more, which was Yvette, the maid. That was like a turning point for me in my development. So.
I need a moment for Yvette.
Yvette.
Moment of silence for Yvette.
Yeah. And just the plot it's the zany screwball without going. It knows the right level of over the top, and hits it and stays on that mark.
Right. Well, they had, so many just classic comedic actors, and just put them on there and just let them do their thing.
It has a unique flavor of being slapsticky, but not getting tired by the time it's done. There's a lot of slapstick type movies. Like it starts out funny, and then by about the hour mark, if not sooner, it just drops off. You're like, is this done yet?
Well, a lot of the slapstick happens at the end, right?
Yeah.
All that high energy stuff, all the running back and forth at the end of it, and you're just following along that energy, right? The build through the whole thing, and the I guess anxiety of what's going on, and then it just turns 100% comedic at the right second.
Yeah.
And how many movies can get away with summing up the entire movie up to that point before then? And get away with that. All right, let's do it again.
Well, it was just fun watching Wadsworth just frenetic. I mean, it almost looked like one take, just running, from room to room and acting everything out. It was just, it's hilarious, and dragging everybody with him. It was hilarious.
Oh, two, and that is
Waterworld.
We have to.
I actually like this movie.
I like this movie.
I like this movie.
I like this movie.
We can't be
Unabashedly, unashamedly like this movie.
So somebody in a pitch meeting at Hollywood said, I want the first shot of this film to be a guy peeing into a container. And they thought that's a good idea.
That's how most Hollywood pitch meetings start, though.
And then no, not just that. After that, he has to filter it and drink it.
Drink it, right.
That was very important for the story.
Well, I appreciate what their intent was to show how bad it's gotten trying to get drinking water, but there's seawater right there. You've got
You
a
can
filter
filter
machine.
seawater.
clearly you can filter things.
Clearly he likes to pee.
It's sterile and I like the taste.
Waterworld likes to drink paint.
He's green, guys. Come on, he's recycling.
It's a personal choice.
Now I will go ahead.
I thought his catamaran was awesome though.
Yeah, he did have an awesome
He had all
catamaran.
those gadgets and stuff on it. I thought that was cool.
I can't decide if it's good or bad Aquaman fan fiction.
It just seems a little flawed, the idea that civilization decides that they can recreate a continent by throwing people in a mud pit in the middle of a floating city. And eventually, they'll get Idaho again or something. Like, I don't know. It feels like a flawed concept that I guess in our society today, I could see a government coming up with that idea, but when I watch it on screen, I'm a little distanced from it. So.
And it feels a bit dated now with the whole the ship, the D's, which was the Exxon Valdez that had spilled all that oil, before the movie came out. So I thought that was a little too on the nose at the time, and then it instantly dates a futuristic movie.
I can see how this movie though really did. I mean, in all seriousness, how it really did destroy the working relationship between Costner and Reynolds. I mean, because up until that point they were on a roll, they were collaborating, and I heard that the strain of this movie just destroyed their working relationship.
He was on a roll at this point with 3+ hour long movies. This was just after Dances with Wolves, and then after Waterworld, he did The Postman.
Right.
Oh.
Which I also kind of enjoyed.
I liked it too. It was his own thing. And I've read the book. The book is like two completely different stories.
Well, I was about to say that if you watch the movie, Kevin Costner and Dennis Hopper, seem to be in two different movies.
Yeah. Dennis Hopper always seems to be in a different movie than everybody else does.
But at least he's a really entertaining villain in Waterworld.
Dennis Hopper was great.
He gives great performances.
In everything.
You had a thing you wanted to say?
I was just going to say, I don't think the movie is as bad as a lot of people remember. I know financially it was not a win for the studio.
Very expensive to make, yeah.
But I think that's... Go ahead. I mean, I know it made money, but in terms of like percentages and things like that they look at, it was considered kind of a flop financially, but I don't think it's as bad as many other films that are very popular, that I won't necessarily name, but a lot of people remember other movies fondly that are much worse films.
Oh, indeed. And maybe on that die.
You are correct.
The Kenner action figure line, though, was awesome because they just ganked all the heads from Prince of Thieves. So.
What? Oh, man!
I could have had a little Dennis Hopper.
They couldn't reuse the Green Arrow mold?
Every Kevin Costner movie has, like, really cool action figures. You can use the Prince of Thieves one for, the Ewoks. It's the Ewoks playset, basically, with like, tree leaves and things like that, so it's pretty cool.
Maybe Costner's a toy guy.
Maybe.
I make movies so I can have toys.
He's very toyetic.
I'm not going to make that
He's
joke.
like the Vanilla Ice of actors.
It's because his face doesn't move, so they can sculpt him very easily.
Dennis Hopper is great.
17. Death Race 2000.
Oh. Talk about Corman.
Yeah, the original.
And Stallone again. Again, this is another 70s society is the problem downer film, kind of. I mean, we got Carradine as the hero who's been put together, they said, like 20 surgeries from crashes and things. And an early Stallone is the bad guy, Machine Gun Joe. Okay, does anybody not know the plot? Okay. Death Race 2000 is a cross-country race with about 30 people. All extreme characters like Machine Gun Joe, Frankenstein, they all have themed vehicles. And their object is to get from one side of the country to the other while running over as many people as possible.
So it's Cannonball Run meets Grand Theft Auto?
Yes. And it's how the government keeps people is suppressed as they're all watching this reality show and excited.
Meets Hunger Games.
Yeah, meets Hunger Games. And so, and the old people are worth more points because they're trying to get them out of society. Kids are small and, you got mouths to feed. And so the hospital at one point wheels out all these patients into the road. And here comes our hero, David Carradine, wrapped in leather. And he just swerves at the last minute into the doctors and the nurses. And you're like, it's a great one of those of, yes, wait, Yes.
I'm conflicted.
I kind of wonder if my mom saw this movie before she started teaching me how to drive. Because she would always, like, we would kind of be joking, like, going through the car. She'd be like, okay, if we see a nun, they're worth more points. So
Your parents did this too?
my mother went to
This
13
movie was
years
really
of Catholic
popular.
school.
She's
so
playing Grand Theft Auto, I think.
yeah.
That's the film's legacy.
This is why I don't drive.
Aiming
Because you swore
Run
for
over
nuns?
people?
No, because people who drive are terrifying.
Yes.
Also because I live in New York
Wait,
City.
you're not terrifying?
They're terrifying in a different way.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
One of the things about this movie, even 40 years later, that makes it just such a great, unique cinematic experience is the same reason that I like the original Gone in 60 Seconds, because even though it's a low-budget film, everything they're doing is on camera. The stunt work, the driving, the crashes, it's all real, it's all on camera. There's no digital car blowing up and flipping over Nicolas Cage or anything like that. Like, it's just hardcore stunt driving and action. And if you like that kind of thing and you haven't seen this movie, you've got to pick it up and watch it.
Plus Sylvester Stallone, like, so if you're like me, that's always a win. Like,
Yeah.
anything with him in it, even if it's really bad, I can
Yeah.
just watch
And
it. It's awesome.
and it's a Roger Corman joint, so it was made quickly, cheaply, and it's fun.